don't know. Do you think it's because my belly was sliced open by a bloodthirsty Eurydimus?
You said don't get scratched or you could die. Then you went and got scratched.
I didn't mean to, Meg. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Jason being killed. The Emperor's launching an attack in Camp Jupiter. Us being attacked by the carrion eaters, trying to kill us. Or being thrown to earth in this pathetic body by my father. And with the wretched name of Lester Papadopoulos.
That was bad. Almost as bad as this ID photo. Hey, your birthday's coming up.
It is? April the 8th? I don't remember my birthday being in spring.
Well, it is now. That's in like 4 days.
Why would Zeus give me a... I remember. I had a dream.
Another one?
Yes, Meg. As the former god of prophecy, I do have visions in my dreams. So, as I was saying, I saw in my dreams Commodus and Caligula, and they were coming this way on a luxury yacht. Caligula had gathered his men and his weapons of mass destruction in time for the blood moon. That's in 4 days.
Looks like Zeus is planning some fireworks for your party.
It must be a warning, or if I know him, a threat.
Mean dads are the worst.
Oh, and I remember more. I was in a darkened chamber with undead soldiers. There was like a skeleton presence. It had glowing purple eyes. Oh!
What's wrong?
Just thinking about it makes my belly hurt.
Pretty rough there.
Such a mean dad.
Yeah, I hate them.
So, I was told that now that we're back at Camp Jupiter, thank goodness for Raina and Frank and Hazel. They're all here. They're all here to help us. I was told to go find a harpy named Ella.
Yes.
And a cyclops named Tyson.
Nah, I'm going to the stables. I need some unicorn horn shavings.
Unicorn horn shavings? For what?
They're good for healing.
Oh, Meg, that's so thoughtful of you. But I know you really just like unicorns.
So, they're cute. And with just a few adjustments, they'll make great weapons.
Weapons? You want to weaponize non-violent magical creatures?
Gotta go, and so do you. Don't do anything stupid. That's an order.
Yes, Master. Why, Father, did you bind me to such an unpleasant child?
I see a lot of orange shirts for Camp Half-Blood. I see a lot of purple for Camp Jupiter. That is awesome. My wife sent me on tour with 8 purple shirts for Camp Jupiter. She said, "You're wearing purple." I said, "Yes, dear." But you guys are special. You get the floral print. I guess she figured this was as close to Hawaii as I was going to get. So, might as well go all out. Well, we have had such a great time with this book tour, and this is the first time I've been in San Diego in years, like over 10 years. So I was well overdue, and I love being in your beautiful city, so thank you for having me. We are on the Tour of Doom, 8 cities in 8 days. Yeah, I know. But, you know, when I say Tour of Doom, don't think of it as a bad kind of doom. Think of it as kind of a warm and fuzzy sort of doom. Because after all, what bad could happen in one of my books, right? apologizing because if you've kept up with the books and you read The Burning Mage, the third in the Trials of Apollo, you know there was some pretty heavy tragedy in that book. I don't know what it is, but I think every time I write a 5-book series, something about that third book, that's when things really get real. Yeah, it just smacks me in the face, like, okay. But, you know, the way I think about it, I mean, it's hard for me too when a major character dies, because I created the characters and I've been writing them for so many years. They're like family members to me. So it's really tough to see one of them die. But, you know, Mars in one of the series said something that, for Mars, I think is actually pretty wise. He said, life is only precious because it ends. And I do think that's true. One of the reasons that we feel so tied to these characters, just like in real life, is that we've been through the good times, but we've also been through the really bad times together. And so that kind of makes us appreciate the good times even more. And it makes the stakes real. I mean, if you knew in advance nothing bad would ever happen to the good guys, well, I mean, you know, that's great, but I mean, that's not a very compelling story. So even though it's tough and sometimes bad things happen, we will hope that the Tyrant's tomb will be better, right? Yeah, sure. I think this picture pretty much says it all. On the left, you have the cover of the book with poor Lester Papadopoulos, the former god Apollo, hanging from his fingernails from the steel girder hundreds of feet above San Francisco. Below him, you have Meg McCaffrey, his 13-year-old boss, and she's thinking, like, please do not kick me in the face. And then leading the way is our old friend, the Praetor of New Rome, Reina Avila Ramirez Arellano, who's valiantly fending off a flock of black chickens. Sure. Anyway, and of course, on the right, you have the author enjoying a relaxing vacation in Rome. That's me on spring break. We went to the ancient Roman Forum, and I'm standing in front of the Arch of Septimus Severus. And if that looks like the smile of a man who has found new ways to torture his characters and his readers, you're right. I'm a lucky guy. I get to take all kinds of cool trips, and everywhere I go is research, because it all goes into my head and into my imagination, and eventually I use it all in the books, somewhere or another. It was on one of these trips, in fact, that I first got the idea of writing about the god Apollo. I've always liked Apollo. He's the god of so many things: music, poetry, both of which I like, archery, which I like but I'm very bad at, prophecy, all kinds of things. And I kind of got the idea that I wanted to write about him, but I had one problem with that. Apollo, you got to admit, is kind of a jerk, right? He's kind of full of himself, which I suppose I can understand. If you were a 4,000-year-old god who had all the powers, you know, you'd probably be full of yourself too. I get that. And every book series, I try to do something a little bit different. In the first series, it's all, of course, from Percy Jackson's point of view, right? I don't know if you know how that came about, but The Lightning Thief first started as a story, a bedtime story for my own son. He was 8 years old at the time, and he had just been diagnosed with ADHD, attention deficit, and got dyslexia. And school was really tough for him. The only thing he liked that year was Greek mythology, which I was a middle school teacher at the time, and I had taught that for many years. So I said, oh, cool. I'll tell you what, I'll tell you stories from the Greek myths at home, hoping that I would keep him interested in school. And one day, when I couldn't think of an old myth, I made up a new one. I said, once upon a time, there was a kid named Percy Jackson. And he found out that he has ADHD and dyslexia, just like you. But he discovered that that's not a bad thing. In fact, if you have those learning differences, there's a pretty good chance you're a demigod. My son was like, yeah. Totally changed the way he saw himself and his school year. And so Percy Jackson was born. And I know after 5 books, I could have kept going from Percy's point of view, Percy 6, Percy 25, Percy 62. I know, and a lot of you guys would have been totally fine with that. But after a while, it would have gotten very stale for me, and I think it would have started to show up in the books. I like to challenge myself. So after the first series, I said, okay, let's go back to Percy's world, but this time, let's have 7 different narrators. 7 demigods will answer the call. And at the beginning, that sounded like, yeah, 7, that sounds great. And then I started writing the series, and I'm like, 7 is a lot. But I did it, I got through, and they all had their own points of view. And then, when I wanted to go back into Percy's world again, I thought about Apollo. I found a really interesting myth. It turns out that twice before, in the actual myths, Zeus punished Apollo by turning him into a mortal and sending him down to the earth to work for some Greek king. He was basically grounded. And I thought, I can't really relate to being a god, but feeling like you should be a god, and you should be popular and good at everything you try, and powerful, and awesome, and articulate, and all these things, and then tripping over your own feet, and not being able to do anything right, I could totally relate to that. So I said, let's send Apollo down to the earth one more time as a hopeless 16-year-old dweeb with no powers. These are my people. I can write about this. And so we have Lester Papadopoulos, the former god, who's been going on all of these different quests, trying to find these oracles from the ancient times, battling evil Roman emperors. It has not been going well. Finally, in book 4, The Tyrant's Tomb, the one that you're about to get, he's back in the Bay Area where Camp Jupiter is. And Apollo's just hoping he can have a nice, relaxing drive through the East Bay into camp where he'll be safe. Not so much. That's from chapter 1. There's Apollo and Meg. They're driving a hearse, and if you've read The Burning Maze, you know why. And there's a flesh-eating ghoul on top of the car trying to get to them, and they're going off a cliff. Well, it only gets worse from here. They get to Camp Jupiter, and they find that things are not great. The campers are suffering from waves of zombie attacks. It's like The Walking Dead. It's just like they just keep coming. And they don't really know why, but some prophecy has said there's a tyrant in a tomb. We don't know who that is, but it's obviously a powerful undead lord who's got a lair somewhere around the camp, and they have to find it. By the way, you're going to get this piece of artwork at the exclusive Barnes & Noble edition inside your book. You'll also notice that there's a lot of different styles of artwork in the presentation, so sorry about that, but they all come from different places. Like this is from the promotional, so that's by a different illustrator. Some of the pictures you see will be from the Riordan.com site that Disney does. They have their own style of artwork. Some of it is by John Rocco, who has drawn all my covers since the very beginning with the lightning thief. And some of the art you'll see is from Viria, who is a fan artist. I like her work so much, I hired her, and now she's the official artist for RickRiordan.com, my own site. So you may get artistic whiplash, kind of looking back and forth, but that's okay, we'll just roll with it. And like I always say, the best image you'll ever have is the one you get in your head while you're reading. No screen can ever be that good. So, carrying on, what else have we got going on? Still more doom. This is the Cumaean Sibyl, one of the main tellers of the future that Apollo used in ancient times. Now I know this picture looks like she's saying, here, have some dirt. And Apollo's like, ah! But the story behind this picture goes like this. For a long time, the Cumaean Sibyl lived in southern Italy back in ancient days, and she had a good working relationship with Apollo, who was obviously her patron god, being the god of prophecies. But then one day, Apollo, being Apollo, decided that the Sibyl was really cute and he wanted to go out with her. So he came up to her one day and he's like, hey baby, I'm going to take you to Olive Garden for breadsticks. The Sibyl's like, I'm good, thanks. I've heard what happens to your girlfriends and boyfriends. They either go up in flames or they turn into plants. Apollo's like, no, it's cool. I'll give you any wish you want if you'll be my girlfriend. The Sibyl's like, yeah, right. I bet you wouldn't, I don't know, give me as many years of life as there are grains of sand on this beach. Apollo says, done. Now come on, Olive Garden, sweetie. The Sibyl says, whoa, that was a hypothetical question, Romeo. I didn't promise you anything. But since I know that you can't take back a wish once you give it, thank you for the extra years of life. Apollo didn't like that. He said, okay, you're going to play it that way? All right, you can have your extra years of life, as many as there are grains of sand on the beach. But I didn't say anything about youth or health. So you're just going to get older and older and older. You have fun with that. Bye. Well, if the command Sibyl was still around today, what do you think she would look like? And if she came across Apollo, who was now a helpless 16-year-old, how would she feel about that? So Apollo has that to look forward to. And we still have 3 evil emperors who want to take over the world, the worst of the Roman emperors. You thought Caligula was bad. You thought Commodus was bad. Wait till you see them together. They have combined forces. They are coming for Camp Jupiter to wipe it off the map. There's Caligula from, I don't know what movie, but there's Commodus, otherwise known as the guy who plays the Joker, which I guess is kind of the same role, really. Anyway, they're coming for Camp Jupiter, so things are not good. Fortunately, Apollo does have some friends on his side. For instance, Meg McCaffrey. Yeah, the daughter of the year. And by the way, the 2 actors who were up here earlier, the Apollo and Meg, those were actually Seal, who's my publicist at Disney, and Stephanie, who's my editor. That's just kind of how we do on tour. So Meg is on our side, thank goodness, and you're also going to see some of your old friends from Camp Jupiter, like Hazel. Hazel, the daughter of Pluto. Some of you have been wondering, she used to have this curse going on in the Heroes of Olympus, where she could summon riches from the earth, precious metals, jewels. But if you tried to spend them, bad things would happen. Many of you have asked me, is that still a thing? In this book, you will find out. Also coming back for a visit in this book is our old friend, Frank John. I love Frank, the son of Mars, now Praetor of New Rome, a shapeshifter, and this is Viria's artwork. She pictures him halfway between human and animal. As soon as I posted this on social media, someone commented, hey, look, Frank has the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. That's worse than my dad jokes. It's like a grandpa joke. By the way, my son defines grandpa joke as a dad joke that has expired. Also in this book, we will see an old friend, the harpy Ella. Oh, it's so awesome. She's my favorite harpy. She has a bibliographic memory. Anything she reads, she remembers. And long ago, she happened to read a copy of the Sibylline Prophecies, which is supposed to have been destroyed. And now she's trying to recall it and record it all so the Romans have something to go on to read the future. She has her own bookstore in New Rome. She even has a bookstore cat. That's, I know, right? That's Aristophanes. And as Apollo describes him, he is so large, he looks like he ate all the other bookstore cats. And her boyfriend is also here to help out, our old friend Tyson. But wait, Tyson is sporting some new ink. What's that about? Well, I can't tell you everything, but I will tell you that if you have ever wanted wanted to read a prophecy from a Cyclops' armpit, this is your chance. There's going to be some new friends to meet as well. Always cool to have new demigods in the mix. For instance, Lavinia Asimov, one of my favorite new Romans. Lavinia is the daughter of Terpsichore, the muse of dance. So she's really good at tap dancing. She has bright pink hair, as you can tell. She loves bubblegum, always has enough gum for everybody in the audience, so we got you covered. And her chosen weapon is the giant Roman-style crossbow you see over her shoulder, which is called a manuballista, which translates as hand cannon. So you get to see that in action. And of course, what visit to New Rome would be complete without our old friend Reyna. And a lot of you longtime readers have been asking about that prophecy that she mentioned in the Heroes of Olympus, where Venus once told Reyna, "No mortal or demigod will ever heal your heart." What does that mean? This is the book where you find out. Stay tuned. And that's a little look at what you got in store in the Tyrant's tomb. But there's so much more going on in Demigod World. Can you believe it has been 10 years since the Heroes of Olympus series began? Not even Percy Jackson, that was earlier. 10 years. And so, to mark the occasion, Disney decided to re-release the Heroes of Olympus with new cover art. And now I know if you're like me, you're really fond of the covers that you grew up with, right? Yeah. And so those are your covers and you don't want to see anything new. You like the ones, I totally get that. I still have the 1970s covers for The Wizard of Earthsea and The Lord of the Rings that I grew up with. So I get that. However, the new artist, Neela Magruder, is really good, and she's given it a new look so new fans will have a chance to see it fresh in the bookstores, and those are out now, and here's the look that she's come up with. I really like especially the Blood of Olympus. I think she did a really nice job of that. So that's out now. Also, if you have any friends who haven't even read the Riordan series at all, and they're not sure where to start, and I get that because there's like 1 million books now, right? Disney's put out like a sampler pack. So you have the first book in every series I've written. Kane Chronicles, Magnus Chase, all the Greek and Roman stuff. Now, for a lot of you guys who have been reading all the series forever, this is not going to be any good to you because you've already got those books. However, I like to think of it as like the sample boxes you do when you're doing like a brown bag lunch, and you have the different kinds of chips, so you don't know if you're in the mood for the sour cream Lay's or the nacho flavored Doritos. You know, you can do a taste test, and that's kind of what this is. What else is going on? What I'm most excited about it all. You can see I have a big grin on my face as I'm hugging these books. A year ago, we started a new imprint, which is like a small publishing house within the big publishing house of Disney. And it's called Rick Riordan Presents. What is this about? For many years, Disney had been telling me, hey, Rick, if you ever want to do your own imprint, like pick books from wherever, whatever kind, and promote them or whatever, just let us know. We'd love to do that. And you guys had for many years been asking me things like, Rick, you've written about Greek and Roman myth, you've written about Norse myths, you've written about Egyptian myths. What about other books that are based on different world mythologies? Would you ever write a book about Chinese mythology, or Aztec mythology, or the various West African mythologies, or the Native American mythologies? There are so many cool traditional stories from around the world. So I get it. It would be really cool to have adventure books like Percy Jackson with a bunch of humor and action and stuff, but based on those other world mythologies. But the thing is, I knew that I wasn't, in most cases, the right person to do that because I don't know those myths. I mean, I love Aztec mythology, but I'm not an expert at it, and I didn't grow up with that. It's not my background, it's not my heritage. And so I was thinking, instead of me, like, trying to take over world mythology, right, everything, surely there are other fantastic authors out there that are from those traditions, from those heritages, that are either writing about these things already or would like to write books based on the mythologies they grew up with. And so I figured, let's do Rick Riordan Presents, and we'll seek out those authors, and instead of me doing it, I'll turn my spotlight on them and let them tell the stories they want to tell. I don't tell them what to write. It's not based on Percy Jackson or anything like that. I don't get the money for it. It's all their thing. I'm just like the cheerleader. I'm the curator. I pick out the ones I think you guys will like the best. So I can safely say, if you liked my stuff, you're going to like these too. Because they've got humor, they get action, they're based on mythology, and they're awesome. And they're by authors who really know it better than I do. So that's what Rick Riordan Presents is. I just found out from my publisher this week, in just the first year, this has gone so well that we now have 1 million books in print in the United States. And the first one that came out was this series, Aru Shah, At the End of Time, by Rosh Chakshi. This is set in modern-day Atlanta, but it's based on Hindu mythology. Rosh does such a fantastic job. If you have not checked out the series yet, the first 2 books are already out. They were both instant New York Times bestsellers. And so you need to check those out, and there's more to come. Here's some of the character art from her series that you can find on readwriter.com. The books have gone so well, in fact, that we even have a sponsorship deal.
Aru Shah and the End of Time is brought to you by Wisdom Cookie. Everyone knows that books are great because they have so much knowledge, but they're hard to eat, and try snacking them on the go. Wisdom Cookies pack the nutritional properties of not 1, not 2, but several ancient texts.
Wow!
And they're fantabulous. So, when you're staring down the end of time and searching for the celestial weapons, there's no time to make bad decisions. And there's no time to eat several large books. So have a cookie. A wisdom cookie.
After that series came out, we did one on Aztec and Maya mythology by a New Mexico-based writer, Jennifer Cervantes, who has done so far The Storm Runner and The Firekeeper, and there's one more coming out. And these have also been instant bestsellers. They're set in modern New Mexico, featuring Zane Obispo. Fantastic, amazing stuff. So, here's some art from that series. Rosie the dog is my personal favorite. She's awesome. And we have, oh wait, a sponsorship deal for her too? I love commercials!
The Storm Runner is brought to you by New Mexico, land of change. Spend your next vacation in a place of breathtaking natural beauty, vivid culture, and absolutely no plague of supernatural reckoning. New Mexico's got it all. Take a walk through time, reach new plateaus, or simply take in the streets. Say, did you know that New Mexico has volcanoes? What do you imagine lives inside a volcano?
There's stuff that lives in them?
Let's talk about other stuff. Let's see, Death Gun.
I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable.
Aw, are you scared of demons? Come to
last night, and they all said, thank you so much. Sending all those tourists our way. Well, that's one series, and we also have Yoon Ha Lee's series. This started with the Dragon Pearl. So fun. I don't know if you can even imagine this, but it's Korean mythology sort of meets Star Wars. It's science fiction space opera with fox spirits and magic. It's so cool. And there's going to be another one coming out in a couple of years as well, because the first one was also another instant bestseller. Here's some of the artwork from Dragon Pearl, and oh yeah, you better believe we got a commercial.
Dragon Pearl is brought to you by Key. It's the life energy that flows through all of us. It's flowing through you right now. And your friend Jerry. It flows through dogs and hamsters. It flows through this rock and even this old Jinju transport. But it doesn't always flow perfectly. Maybe you can help by learning more about geomancy and the foundations of principle, pattern, reason, coherence. Learn this and more at the 1,000 World Space Forces. If you've ever dreamed of leaving your planet for bigger and bolder adventures, the 1,000 World Space Forces is for you. Join today and live tomorrow.
After that, we have with Sal and Gabby, Break the Universe by Carlos Hernandez. This is set in a middle school as a performing arts school in Miami. One of the main characters, Sal, discovers he has the ability to reach into alternate universes and pull things into our universe, or even people into our universe. Can you imagine how that might get you in trouble in middle school? Yeah, it doesn't go very well. Here are some of the characters you will meet that are listed on Riordan.com. I loved this book so much that I shared it with all the other Rick Riordans across the multiverse. They all loved it. They really did. I'm not exactly sure Roman Rick knows how to read. And coming in only 2 weeks, October 15th, I cannot express to you how excited I am about this book. Kwame Imbalia is coming at you with Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky. This book, well, you can tell from the artwork on the cover how awesome this is going to be. But why do I need to tell you about it when we have a special guest here? Kwame Imbalia himself is here with us today. Let's give him a round of applause and ask him to come up and talk about it.
So, here's how great of a storyteller Uncle Rick is. I was so mesmerized that when he introduced me, I was like, I love that guy. I can't wait to hear him. Yes, get him up on the stage. Let's go. Tristan Strong is a story about stories. I love the anecdote that Rick shared about telling the story of Percy Jackson to his own son. Because I myself have done the same. The first story that I created for my kids, my boys, was Captain Smoshington and First Mate Wiggles. And they were pirates who had a pet abominable snowman. I don't know where I was going with it. I was really just trying to get them to go to bed. And then they did this, your eyes goes perfect. We'll get to chapter 2 tomorrow. But Tristan is a boy from Chicago. He lives in our world. And he is experiencing grief. And since all of you have read Rick's books, you get where I'm going. Tristan is experiencing grief when he gets, through his own actions, sucked into a world where African American folktales and West African gods coexist. And they are at odds while suffering from an unimaginable, horrific evil. And so, Tristan is a boxer. He's used to fighting bigger, stronger, tougher opponents. He's used to getting knocked down. He's used even more to getting back up. And that's what this story is about. How do we get back up? How do we keep going? How do we carry on in the face of overwhelming odds? And how do we come out on top? I'm excited for it. There are special characters that I'm truly fond of that I grew up listening to inside of it. John Henry, as you see on the corner, or on the cover, excuse me. Anansi, the weaver of folktales. Then there's a very special one that's near and dear to my heart. She's a 1 foot high, carved from a tree, sticky wooden doll named Young Baby. She talks in the third person. She's very sassy, and I have a lot of fun with her. And I think you will too. So if you like overwhelming odds, if you like a diverse cast of phenomenal and strong and very memorable characters, I think you're going to like these books. I hope you like these books. So I enjoyed writing it. I hope you enjoy it.
Lucky. This is the only stop on my tour that Kwame could join us for, and he has signed all of these sample chapters, so you can get a sample booklet that so you have his signature before he makes it like super duper huge, which I think is going to happen. So that'll be waiting for you as he makes it as well. Wow. As if that, do you have enough to read that? As if that wasn't enough. Coming in 2020, we also have Rebecca Rowenhorst, who is going to write about Dene, also known as Navajo, traditional folk tales in Race to the Sun. Another set in New Mexico with a modern 7th grader who finds out that she has to go on this supernatural journey that features all kinds of Navajo monsters and gods and heroes. It is fantastic. That's coming your way in early 2020. Also, Aru Shah, the Hindu-based series continues from Ashchachi, The Tree of Wishes, coming out in April. And Sal and Gabby Fix the Universe. And not only that, oh man, I love this book. This is Taylor K. Mejia, Paulo Santiago and the River of Tears. Now, I grew up in South Texas, and I don't know if you guys have the old legend. You probably do here, La Llorona. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, if you don't know it, basically La Llorona was a woman who, for one reason or another, drowned her children in the river. And because of that, she was cursed to walk the riverbanks for all time, looking for the souls of her children. So if you're a mortal child walking by the river at night, especially, you better be careful, because you could hear her weeping, and if she finds you, she might think you're one of hers, grab you and take you down into the depths. When I was a child growing up in South Texas, we used to camp by the river, and I did not sleep at night. Taylor K. Mejia has done a fantastic job reimagining the La Llorona legend in modern day, and my hope is when you read it, you will be just as terrified as I was. All of those are coming from the Rick Riordan Presents imprint. They're all fabulous. And if you want another look at Camp Jupiter, you can also look forward to this. This is a journal of a first-year camper at the Roman camp, describing everything she's going through. So you really get a behind-the-scenes look. You also get a little sample of this in the exclusive Barnes & Noble edition that you're going to get today. So, and finally, of course, Lester Papadopoulos will be back one more time. The 5th and final Trials of Apollo book will be The Tower of Babel. That's coming out next year at this time. Well, what can I tell you? Of course, you haven't even gotten the 4th book yet. You're about to, so I'm not going to spoil that for you. I can tell you that the 5th book will bring Apollo back to where this series began, Manhattan, which means we're back at Camp Halfway. What is that mean? Which characters are going to be in this? Well, I'm not going to tell you all of them, but I will give you a little hint. You are going to see a lot of Will Solis and Nico D'Angelo. And that brings us to my absolute favorite part of any presentation, which is Q&A. When you came in, many of you filled out questions you would like to ask me on index cards. I have not seen these yet. Steph and Seal went through these, and they picked the most interesting, the most confounding questions that they thought would stump me. So we're going to see what's on your mind. Okay. No name on this card, but it says, who is your favorite author? Either now or when you were a kid or at a pivotal point in your life. I have so many favorite authors. It's really, really hard to just pick one. At a pivotal point in my life, I think I would have to say Tolkien, the Lord of the Rings series. Because that got me into reading and it got me into mythology at the same time. And it made me want to be a writer. I wrote a whole bunch of what we would now call fan fiction for the Lord of the Rings. Thank goodness back then there was no internet, so I didn't publish it. So good thing. Who is the first person who you let read your work if it's something you're nervous about sharing? You mean always. I'm nervous about sharing everything always. If I can, I always let my wife read what I've written first. And when I say first, I mean that's after I've written the first draft, which is always horrible. I've just learned that's okay, let it be horrible. Just write the whole thing, and then revise it, and then if I can, I'll show it to my wife first. Because she's honest, she'll tell me the truth, but she's also very constructive. She'll say, okay, here's what I think is wrong, and here's what I think we need to do to make it a little better. So she is my first editor. Oh, and a P.S. Thank you for Magnus Chase. He is the best. I don't want to die a heroic death, but I mean, I do think Valhalla, the Hotel Valhalla, is a pretty cool place. How do you deal with writer's block? On some days, I'm brimming with inspiration. On others, all I can do is hit my head on the desk. I totally feel that. I do. I get it. The best thing I can tell you is this. First thing I've learned is that it helps me a lot if I make a map. It doesn't have to be complicated, but even just like one sentence for each chapter. Okay, in the first chapter, it's in New York, and the person's going to find out that there's a fire giant at school. Second chapter, okay, he defeats the giant and finds out there's somebody who's got to save. And just like that, all the way through. And then, once I've got that, at least I know sort of where I'm going. So I'm not going to get to the middle and be like, oh. The second part of that is write the whole thing. Like I said before, it's going to be horrible. That's okay. I've written and published now 30 novels, and still every first draft that I write is awful. It's horrible. And I know that, but I just write it anyway. Let yourself be horrible. Write the entire book out. Don't stop to revise, because if you start revising, you're just going to be grinding your wheels, and you're going to think, oh, chapter 1 has to be perfect before I go to chapter 2. If you do that, you'll never get to chapter 2. Just write the whole thing. Those are the two best things for writer's block. Does Percy still drool in his sleep? Olivia would like to know this. Poor Percy. I mean, I would imagine so, yeah. Not that I have ever done that myself, but it sounds like something that doesn't really go away. Poor Percy. You know, he's been trying to graduate high school for the last 10 years. I won't let him turn 18. I really got to deal with that. This is a little bit of a spoiler, but it's been a year and a half for Burning Maze, so I will allow it. Why did Piper break up with Jason? Well, you know, I'm not sure Piper's really completely sure about that, but all I can say is she explains it pretty well in The Burning Maze. She kind of explains her feelings about that, and I think for her, she feels like she's been living somebody else's story for so long. Like, she's Aphrodite's daughter, and Aphrodite's always saying, oh, you need to meet a nice boy, and you will fall in love and have a wonderful relationship with a tragedy, and, you know. And everybody's been telling her the way she's supposed to feel. And finally, Piper's not in crisis mode all the time anymore, and she's starting to think, you know, maybe I don't buy into that narrative. Maybe I want to figure out for myself who I am. So she's not sure where that's going, but breaking up with Jason was part of that. Ah, if you could apologize to any characters, who would you apologize to? I mean, all of them? I don't really treat them very well, do I? I mean, you know, the books are all about cliffhangers and adventures and, you know, death-defying escapes, and that's kind of what I like to write about, you know, and every chapter I'm like, oh, cool, let's make something explode. That's just how I do. So yeah, I'm sorry. Do you have any pets? I do. I have we have 3 rescue animals, 2 cats, and one of them is a Tribble, who is a Mancoon, and he's like huge and fluffy. And the other one is a little boy. He's a scaredy cat. He always like hides in the closet. And we have a dog named Speedy, who's like a terrier Basenji mix. And we found her one day when I was still living in Texas. She was a puppy, and somebody had abandoned her. And it was a rainy day. I was getting the kids in the car to take them to school, and we heard this whimpering coming from under the car. And we pulled out this little tiny puppy, still with a collar and a leash attached. And nobody ever claimed her, but we were lucky because we got to raise her, and she's awesome. She's my writing inspiration dog. And Inez would like to know, wow, what effect do you hope to have on your younger readers by having diverse characters? I'm a high school sophomore now, but having characters of different religions and orientation meant a lot to me when I was younger, and it still does. Cool, thank you, Inez. Thanks for being a hero and an inspiration. Oh, thank you. Well, I look at it like this. The book started as a way for my son to see himself in a book, right? It was about a kid with ADHD and dyslexia. And at the time, my son felt like he was the only one in the world that was dealing with this, and he felt really hopeless. He'd never read a book with a character that has learning differences like that. And so Percy Jackson was for him. After that became a success, I started thinking about all the kids I've taught over the years. I taught middle school for 15 years in California and in Texas, and I taught a lot of different kinds of kids. Everybody you can possibly imagine. So I thought, you know, it's really important that I honor the kids that I taught. And that means having kids of color, that means having Muslim kids, that means having kids that have learning disabilities, that have physical disabilities maybe, that have, they're somewhere on the LGBTQ spectrum. All of those kids are very dear to me, and I wanted to tell them basically, I remember you, I value you, I see you, I'm not going to erase you. You can be in my world too. You are also a people. So that was basically what that was about. So I'm glad. Concerning how to train and encourage her students to fight the monsters that they face every day. Oh yeah, that's part of that. And again, a lot of the students that I taught were dealing with, you know, really tough stuff. Homeless students, students that didn't have parents that were there for them. There was some issues of abuse happening that we had to report. You know, kids are resilient, but it's terrible the things that a lot of them have to deal with. And then they come to school and we expect them to have their math homework done. You know, it's like they have a lot of other stuff going on. I guess I would say, just be there for them. That's what I tried to do. I didn't always succeed, but school can be an enormous safe space. And I think just recognize, have empathy for where these kids are coming from. And if you treat them with kindness and respect, most of the time you'll get the kindness and respect back. And also it helps if your classroom's fun. I always try to make my classroom so fun that the kids didn't even realize they were learning. I wanted them to say, yes, it's time for Mr. Riordan's class, let's go. Not always, like on test day, not so much. All right, Hayden would like to know, do any of your characters have anxiety? Yeah, I can definitely say that Ella, the harpy, is dealing with that as part of who she is. That's not her whole thing, but that's part of it. And I would think that it would be kind of hard to be a demigod without at least having some incidental anxiety. I mean, the job is pretty hard. Is it a constant thing for some of them? I'm sure it is. What is your favorite manga? Okay, well, I like One Outs. I don't know if you know that. It's a baseball anime series. I liked, what was the one that, my sons are big manga and anime guys. They're really, really into it. They shared Black Butler with me. That was really good. Gosh, there's so many. Some of them they won't let me watch. They'll say, no, that's too violent for you. They're protecting me. What scene has been your favorite to write? Wow. I don't know, but I think the underwater kiss at the end of the last one. That was pretty good. Okay, and our final question. Are you proud of your accomplishments? Nah. No, I don't really think about it day to day, but every once in a while, like today, I'll get cards and letters from kids that have come from all over the place to come see me, or I'll get questions like these. People will tell me how much the book's meant to them, and that is so cool. To think that there are people out there that grew up on the books and became teachers, or writers, or classicists, or archaeologists, or professors, or whatever it might be, because Percy Jackson inspired them when they were in elementary school. That just blows me away. It's hard for me to believe, and I can't imagine, as somebody who's a teacher and a writer, any reward greater than that. That's pretty cool. Thank you guys so much.